such an honor and pleasure, Dr. Darity, to even, be having a conversation. I've read your book, all of your studies, everything. Like, you're amazing. But I just wanted to get your take on, as it was mentioned about Kramer's work, who he's focused on like lost wages, and things like that. Given all that just about the political landscape and the uphill battle that we're in, and keeping the focus on bridging the racial wealth gap, right? Do you think that it's to our benefit to come with a like using, like for instance, salaries, if we can compute them, using an average wage per day or something like that, which puts us into the quadrillions? Do you think that's something that we should go after, or should we stick with closing the racial wealth gap?
I don't know if I've got a good answer strategically. I mean, I know that people always say that you should start with the highest number and let them bargain you down. And so, if that's a sound strategy, then maybe we do start the conversation with one of these enormous numbers. But let me say that the most recent paper that Thomas did, I'm a co-author on, and that's the paper that has the 6.2 quadrillion figure and the $22 quadrillion figure as well. And nowhere in the paper do we actually say that that's the appropriate ask that should be made. In fact, I think in the paper, we actually turn back to the racial wealth gap as the foundation for what the claim ought to be. And there's a reason that goes beyond the fact that the quadrillion figures are extremely high, or they're extraordinarily high. The reason is, and this is more fundamental, we're not in a position to compensate the individuals who were subjected to slavery in any direct way. All of them are dead. And, the folks who frequently say things like, well, there's nobody living today who was enslaved, and there's nobody living today who was a slaveholder. Actually, they're correct. What they're wrong about is the question of whether or not the effects of slavery still persist, and whether the effects of slaveholding still persist. And the answer is that they do. And that should be the basis for a compensation claim that's made to the living descendants of the persons who were directly subjected to slavery. And so what we've been trying to do is to figure out what's the best way to measure the costs that are being imposed on individuals who are living now. And we concluded that the best economic indicator of those costs is the magnitude of the difference in wealth, because wealth is something that's been produced by the transmission of resources across generations. And so it's capturing the cumulative effects of these various policies that have been put into operation to build white wealth to the disadvantage of Black wealth. And so, if we were making payments directly to the individuals who had been subjected to enslavement, then it would be appropriate to compensate them for the theft of their lives, basically. And that's what runs into these enormous numbers in the quadrillions. But none of those individuals are still living.
Right.
The consequences of their enslavement are still with us in terms of what the consequences have been for our current economic position. And so that's what we have said should be the focal point for designing the reparations bill. But I'm never absolutely certain that my position is correct, and so I'm more than glad to have a further conversation about all of this.